Today's Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, and today I'm talking about belief and freedom of belief. And it's one of those things that it eventually just gets squashed out of you. And it's something that when you're in school, they try to pretend like, oh, anybody can come up with any theory. They try to pretend like, oh, we love it when people think outside the box. But that's just not how school works at all. And that's just a big fat lie that they want people having original thought. And go back to school. How many times in science class did they actually have you come up with your own theories and go do experiments and gather your own data? It's just not the kind of thing that actually happens. They talk about these concepts, but really, school is all about programming you to accept the authority figure as the only solution. And so that directly contradicts things like the scientific method. How often do people actually use the scientific method in science class? Almost zero. Almost 100% of what people do in science class is just write down or listen to what the experts say. It's all a giant appeal to authority. I don't even have to get into that. I think that's just really obvious. But what I want to talk about today is how they squash our freedom of belief. And more than just a religious thing, I don't understand why freedom of belief has become synonymous with freedom of religion, which is really interesting in my opinion, because I just think of freedom of belief as the ability for everybody to make up their own mind about whatever, to believe. Why should somebody else have authority over what I personally believe? And I think that's something that everybody knows, that everybody has freedom of belief, but it's something that gets squashed out of us, just like they squash out that discernment out of our minds and make us stop noticing people's necks and things like that. It's the same way they squash our freedom of belief. They make us believe things against our will through things like societal pressure, mocking, etc. They have all sorts of tricks that they know about how to coerce people into doing their bidding. And this is why they think lesser. They think of your average sheep as cattle, as goyim, and like they need to be corralled and think of how they give the cattle a bunch of bad food to eat and inject them with all sorts of stuff. They do the same thing to humans, and they corral us with the mind, and they get you in this mind prison where there's no original thought. The only thoughts that people have come from the TV or from authority figures. And once you realize that all your authority figures are a bunch of bozos, just actors and switch skeleton liars, and oh my gosh, I mean, it's just so cringy to me. I'll just tell a personal story here. Because back when I was asleep, I was like hanging out with friends in the backyard looking up at the sky, and it makes me cringe so much, like knowing that I used to believe that stuff. But anyways, I was pontificating on how amazing it is that we know what we are and all that stuff, which seriously, it makes me cringe thinking that I used to believe that stuff. But the point of the story is there was a friend next to me who, of course, now I know that they were a Bapho. They were likely illuminated. This was in higher education, a friend of mine. So I'm sitting there gushing about NASA BS, trying to be cool. I don't know, trying to fit in. I was a part of people who are supposed to be super smart. So the correct answer is whatever the people with the most diplomas are saying. Anyways, the point of this is the whole time while I'm gushing this, I felt this person watching me in just a strange way. They were watching me gush about the stardust and all that. Again, I'm cringing so hard at myself. It's so dumb. But we've come so far. I've come so far in 5 years that it's just incredible. But anyways, I still remember that person was watching me gush about this NASA stuff, and they just had an odd expression on their face. And at the time, I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't think much of it. But now thinking back, it's like that person knew that I was duped and buying into all the BS, and I still don't know what really was going through their head. But the joke's on that person. What that person does now is they do a bunch of like general relativity stuff, and it's so cringy to me that now that I know the truth, now that I know about all those phonies that are in positions of power where they're supposed to be super smart people, but what they do for a living is something that they know is deception. They know it's BS, but it's just what they're a part of now. And it's still hard for me to get past. They must feel like the biggest jokes ever, that they know what they're doing is a bunch of BS, but they still do it. At least I was just stupid and duped and gullible, mostly just gullible. They know that people are gullible and that they'll believe what they're told. That's why these inverts, a lot of them are pathological liars, because they grow up knowing that people will just believe whatever BS you spew out of your mouth. And if they don't believe you, they have certain tricks. They'll just, how dare you? Anyways, let's get into the scripture. I've already said a lot. John chapter 20, verses 15 through 31. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus saith unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father, and your Father, and to my God, and your God. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. So just one interesting note about these. Jesus said unto her, Touch me not. So I'm guessing that Mary got up and saw that it was Jesus, and she was coming towards him, gonna give him a hug or something. I just think it's interesting that he tells her to touch her not because of what we're gonna see later. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, I just think this is a really interesting verse. They were afraid of the Jews because they were going to come stone them. And so I think it's interesting that 501c3 churches, your average plastic Christian, they have this strange understanding of the Jews, where Jews are these golden people. But if you read the Bible, the Jews are doing horrible things all the time. Okay, continuing on. And and when he had so said, he showed unto them his hands and his side. Then were the disciples glad when they saw the Lord. Then said Jesus to them, Peace be unto you. As my Father hath sent me, even so I send you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them, and said unto them, Receive ye the Holy Ghost. Whosoever sins ye remit, they are remitted unto them, and whosoever sins ye retain, they are retained. So did Jesus give the disciples the power to cleanse some people of their sins? But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. So Thomas was a skeptic, and the reason that I picked these verses is because people get very raged, and something that a lot of people make reaction videos to me and make rage comments about me. One of the things that people rage about and that people like to throw on me is they'll say that I don't believe in anything that I can't see or touch. And the funny thing is that there's all sorts of things that I can see and touch, and I still don't believe them because I know that they're a hoax. Things like a gorilla. I can go to a zoo and see an actor in a fursuit. That doesn't mean I'm going to believe in gorillas all of a sudden. I could go watch an animatronic in a tree. That doesn't mean I'm going to believe in koalas. But I'm just saying, a big thing that people try to shame you with, oh, just because you can't see outer space, you don't believe in it. You don't believe in anything you can't see. What's wrong with that? So what? Everybody has the ability to believe whatever they want. A big thing, goalposts are just a huge thing when it comes to belief. And everybody should be able to set their own goalposts for belief. And nobody should be out there setting one another's goalpost. You'll just see that all the time, where what I mean is people should have their own reasons for why they believe what they believe. But people will come out of the woodwork and they'll try to put their own constraints on your thought. Anyways, there's probably better ways I can say that, but it is what it is. Let's just keep going. And after 8 days again his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. So I don't think Jesus really thinks that Thomas is going to stick his hand inside of him. Have any of you guys seen the movie Fifth Element? This is probably where this idea comes from. The blue diva thing gets shot up and dies, and Bruce Willis has to stick his hand into her wound. That's what this reminds me of. But I thought this was interesting, contrasting this with, he told Mary, don't touch me. And then here he's telling Thomas to literally stick his hand up inside his wound, which I just think is an interesting contrast. But it's because I don't think he thinks that, I mean, of course, Jesus knows what's going to happen. And I think he knows that Thomas isn't going to actually touch him. And Thomas answered him and said unto him, My Lord and my God. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. So, this was just the verse that I think is for us today. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. So something that really makes people angry, that I do get a lot of hate comments about, is that they'll say, you don't believe anything, but you believe in Jesus. Yes. Yeah, that's what my whole awakening was about. I realized that everything that I had believed in, everything that I had put faith in was wrong. I put faith in all the wrong things. I put faith in the institutions, even though I could see that the institutions are garbage and they don't work. And I put faith in academia, even when I was deep in it and I could see that there's a bunch of frauds and phonies, and a lot of people with PhDs are the dumbest people I've ever seen. And yeah, I realized that I put my faith in the wrong thing, and I realized that the Bible is the only thing that's true, and that Jesus is the only truth that is worth clinging on to like that. God and Jesus Christ, it's the only truth worth having faith in. I don't have faith in any of the scientists anymore. I don't have faith in any of the government institutions. Anything but made by man, I have no faith in it. I invoke my freedom of belief, and I reject anything based off of those assumptions, and I use my freedom of belief to accept Jesus Christ as the Messiah. And what's it to other people? And the fact that other people get so enraged about it, I think that is just so telling. If I had crazy, insane opinions about multi-dimensions, so just what I compare this to is, if I was just some person out there saying my opinions about multiverses and saying everything is a hologram or a crystal refraction, blah, 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 and I said that I believe in Odin, nobody cares. But the fact that I say I don't believe in scientists, I don't believe in modern medicine, because I say certain things, and because I say I have total faith in Jesus Christ, it makes people go off the rails. Okay, so just continuing, and many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written, that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name. Another thing that rages people is when you say his name is Jesus, and you reject all of what they say is his name, strange Hebrew things. Freedom of belief, I don't quite understand why it's been equated to freedom of religion. Maybe it's a sort of spellcraft, a mind game. They want people to think that you're only free to believe things about religion. You're not allowed to have freedom of belief when it comes to things like what they'll tell you is science, which is kind of interesting because science is their religion. They'll basically tell people, you're free to have whatever spiritual belief you want, but science is not something that's debatable. You can't deny science. That's what they drill into your head. But the actual truth is that science is their religion. And what they're doing is they're just using mind games to remove your freedom of choice, your freedom of belief about their religion. So even if you want to be Christian, they'll say, you can go ahead and be Christian, but you still must adopt our Babylonian outer space land spaceballs stuff. They do not allow people to reject that stuff. That's why Christian schools teach outer space. Christian schools teach dinosaurs. It's so crazy. That's why the shills that they put up, even the people that will come out and say evolution is fake, That's why they make sure that those people say stupid things like humans lived around dinosaurs, cavemen, or it's like they always have to keep people trapped. And so here, I think that this is really important, that they have equated the idea of freedom of belief into religion, so that what it does is it allows them to take their Babylonian religion and kind of put it outside of this box, to where they can say, you're not free to have choices about whether or not you believe in this. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting, that you try to look up stuff talking about freedom of belief. People should be talking about freedom of belief. I'm allowed to believe or not believe anything. When the TV turns on and runs a story, everybody has a choice to believe that story or to say, nah, I don't believe it. And that is something that they attack so heavily. The mysterious they, people who defend the matrix, the system, whatever you want to say. If you say, nope, I don't believe that, that just triggers people so much. And then when you tell people, I believe in Jesus Christ, that also triggers people. And so yeah, that's what this video is about. Belief, freedom of belief. People have a really hard time saying no, and it's because we've been programmed to think that we're not allowed to say no. And just say no. When some authority figure comes out and tells you something that sounds like a lot of BS, you don't have to believe it just because an authority figure told you. You have freedom of belief. We all have the freedom to choose whether to believe something or not. And when you invoke your freedom to believe things or to disbelieve things, you will see people get so triggered. And yep, that's what this video is about. Everybody has the choice of what to believe or not. And you see my videos where I tell people what I believe, and why do people get so mad about just what I believe? So it gives you something to think about. When you have a certain belief and you see people get triggered, it's just interesting. Why do so many people get triggered that I believe this way? If somebody has certain beliefs that I don't agree with, usually I just ignore them. What's it to me? Jesus Christ is the Messiah. I hope you enjoyed this video. God bless everyone.